Updating the CFR for the Advanced Legal Research course at Boston College Law School. On Wednesday, September 18th, 2024, I went to the eCFR to see if I could find the current regulation at 46 CFR section 2.75-10. Our client had asked our help in setting up company procedures for getting Coast Guard approval of safety equipment for a boat she wants to use to transport passengers traveling between Boston and Logan Airport. Title 46 of the eCFR said it was up to date as of 9/16/2024. That's 2 business days. But I'm a suspicious person. I wondered if, even in those 2 business days, could there be changes to this regulation? So I went to govinfo.gov to find the regulatory information called CFR Parts Affected from the Federal Register, which is taken from the User Aid section of the Daily Federal Register. We can select a time frame or a particular date range, but the default is past 30 days, and given that I have no specific knowledge of any changes, I will stick with that. Scrolling down to Title 46, we can click on the little plus sign next to Title 46, and then the little plus sign next to Part 2 to reveal a final rule on marine equipment on board vessels and other offshore units or facilities. I can click on text or PDF to see the actual final rule. The text version makes copying and pasting easier, but I like using the PDF version, which I find easier to read or scan. Here we can see that a final rule was published today that amends something in 46 CFR Part 2 that will take effect on October 18th, 2024. An even easier to read and scan version of this final rule is available on federalregister.gov. This is the table of contents for today's issue. Using the calendar on the right, we could jump to another day's table of contents. If I had remembered to write down the citation to this final rule, 89 FR 76676, and I had typed that citation into the search box at the top of the page, I could have gone from this page to the final rule. But it didn't take much longer to just scroll down to the agency making this rule, the Coast Guard, and click on the link to the Federal Register document. This final rule contains not only the actual amendments to the CFR, but it also explains why the agency wrote the rule this way and the agency response to comments received on the proposed rule. This easy-to-read document has a link on the left to an enhanced table of contents that helps provide quick access to different parts of this Federal Register document. If instead of trying to read this regulation in the eCFR, I had gone to Westlaw instead, I would have found this red flag at the top of this regulation, alerting me to the fact that this regulation has been amended. Clicking on that red flag, I'm taken to a page that links me to the amending Federal Register document on Westlaw. If I had looked for this regulation on Lexis, there is no indication that this regulation has been amended. Checking the document currency statement, we see that this is only current through September 16, 2024, issue of the Federal Register, only 2 days ago. To find changes since then, I might ask govinfo.gov to display the changes to Title 46 within the last week, since this CFR is only a couple of days out of date. On Bloomberg Law, to check the currency of a regulation, click on the General Information icon. Bloomberg Law's currency was through yesterday's Federal Register, so it doesn't make any references to the upcoming changes. Last time I made a video on how to update the CFR, Bloomberg had already incorporated the changes made in that day's Federal Register, and I started to wonder how quickly would the platforms incorporate this amendment. So I went back to the services the next day. Bloomberg Law was current through that day's Federal Register, although since the change we located will not take effect until October, it doesn't actually give any indication of the pending change. Then I went back to Westlaw. Gone is the red flag, replaced by a new statement of the effective date of this regulation that includes an end date when the new regulation takes effect. And when we look at the versions of this regulation under the History tab, we see a new future version is available for us to use. And we can read on Westlaw today the text of this section that will take effect October 18th, 2024. The biggest surprise was on Lexis, which now states that the CFR is current through the September 18th issue of the Federal Register, except for 4 specific sets of amendments, the last of which happens to be the one that amends the section we are looking for. I have no doubt that in a day or two, Lexis will look like Westlaw, with the text of how the section currently reads and the text of how the section will read on October 18th. So if you have the time, you could just wait a while for the CFR section you are using to be updated. Or you could update using the CFR parts affected from the Federal Register and know what changes are coming now.